I'm Mary Ann Scully, Chairman, President, and CEO of Howard Bancorp and Howard Bank. I was one of the founders of the bank, so I have been involved with the bank since 2003, which is when we began our initial founding role of capital raises. We continued that from August 2003 through April of 2004, and then went into a fairly heavy period of regulatory approval seeking, location seeking, and trying to hire initial staff. And we opened the doors of the bank in August of 2004. So almost a year to the date after we first took the step of talking to one potential investor and saying, so what would you think if we told you we were starting a bank? Ted and I first met when I went hat in hand to Ted Offit's office to talk to him about this new bank that was being started and what the rationale for the bank was, what I thought the opportunities economically were for the bank, and to solicit his investment, and seriously to solicit his investment not just because of the dollars that he could provide, but because of the network that would then be created between Mary Ann Scully and Ted Offit, Howard Bank, and Offit and Kerman in helping to build this stronger community, because it's centers of influence and circles of influence. It's never one person that can do any of this. And I'm happy to say I was successful, and he became an investor. And then a little bit later, when Offit Kerman opened an office in Howard County, became a client. We, in turn, are a client of Offit Kerman. We find ourselves at numerous not-for-profit events together, and I think are always happy and delighted to be there, rather than either one of us bemoaning the fact that it's, yet another rubber chicken dinner. I think we both take very seriously, this is part of who we are, not just what we do. One of the things that we have said from the very beginning that is carried through 11 years later is that we expect certainly all of our customer-facing managers and any senior manager in our support areas to be actively involved, not just as a volunteer, but as a volunteer leader on at least one and ideally two not-for-profit boards. It is a requirement. And it's interesting because I have one new colleague in particular at Patapsco Bank who gets it and who called me up a couple of months ago and said, I've been meaning to talk to you. This is something I have a passion for. Do you think you could introduce me to a couple of not-for-profits that I might be able to get involved in? So the idea is to be passionate about it, so it runs the gamut. Dick Story, who we're very lucky to have on board with us, is, among his other responsibilities, responsible for coordinating a lot of our not-for-profit work. And the challenge is always that if you're responding to somebody's personal passion, it's going to be hard to find a theme in what you do. To some extent, I think a lot of what we try to do is provide access. So whether it's healthcare or education or the arts, there's always an element of providing access to that to people that might not otherwise have access to it. But it's all over the board in terms of missions, and it's all over the board in terms of geography, and that's the way it should be because we're a community bank.